Why, hello, and welcome to a very special edition, a
Turn
very
left onto the
strange
I-40
edition
East ramp.
of the DMZ America podcast for Friday, May 31st, 2024. Coming to you from the left, I am editorial cartoonist Ted Rall.
And I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right and from the road somewhere in the Carolinas. And you can hear our GPS system will also be joining us this segment, apparently.
We should probably both be driving at any given time. From now on, we should never do a stationary DMZ America podcast ever again. Like, we could try to one-up each other. Like, look, I'm on a camel.
I'm on a Sopwith camel.
It's like, look, I'm on the International Space Station. Hi.
Damn it.
So
why did you call? Why are you calling me while I'm driving?
Well, Scott, as you know, it's a very important breaking news day. A tiny fern has smashed the world record for the biggest DNA. It has the biggest genome on Earth. So it's not the size of your genome, it's how you use it.
It's exactly how you use it. Is it a human genome? Because I thought they already had sequenced that.
It is a fern genome. It is a fern.
Why do we care about this? Why is this a thing?
Well, we don't actually. Oh, I remember what we were going to talk about. We were talking about Trump getting convicted. That's it.
Oh, there you go.
That's what it was. Okay, so Donald Trump, obviously, I'm only saying this next part. If you're listening to this contemporaneously, you can just skip the next minute. But if this is in the future, you will want to know that this was the day that former President Donald Trump was convicted on 34 counts out of 34 of falsifying business records, a felony that carries a possibility of up to 4 years in state prison. So obviously this is the first time that a former United States president has ever been convicted of, well, I don't even think, I was going to say a felony, but I think a crime, right? Well, no, that's not quite true. I think President Grant was once convicted of misdemeanor speeding on his horse and buggy. Apparently, he was a maniac.
I think you're right.
So,
well, he loved horses and he liked going fast. Apparently, he was a hell of a horseman. So, you know.
So,
but they have radar guns then? I mean, how did they know?
Oh, and of course, obviously, George W. Bush had DUIs on his record, but that was prior to his record.
Right. No president. And don't forget, 1974, when Nixon resigned, Jerry Ford gave him this blanket pardon, which was never contested, interesting. Whether or not you can say the president's not guilty of anything at any time during his presidency, you can't prosecute him, leave him alone.
By the way, I got to just point out that visually, Scott, right now, you look a little bit like Hunter Biden in this pose with the hat, except you're wearing more clothes.
Yes, and I'm not. I have no hookers nor crack.
Well,
let me check. Do we have any crack? We have no crack. Okay.
In North Carolina, I think if you had like 1 grain of crack, you could probably be executed along the side of the road legally.
Yeah, they were just hanging up. That you'd be an example.
You know, in North Carolina, I had a friend who he was caught speeding 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, and the cop informed him that the police officer was obligated legally to take him to jail overnight for speeding.
Yeah, that's
20 over.
Yeah, that's reckless endangerment. That I can see that could be a thing.
That not in New York. I mean,
but I'm not.
That's just driving.
Really?
No, I mean, the ticket would suck. It would probably be a good solid 6 to 9 points on her 12-point license. But it's not jail. So
well,
so
Scott, a lot of things.
Let's talk a little bit. Let's talk. I mean, obviously, we're just only going to talk today. First of all, because you're in the car, and also we're only going to talk about the conviction. So you were not surprised by this verdict.
No, I predicted.
You did call it accurately. I was wrong. You were right. I will say it again. Scott was right. I was wrong. And so, Scott, why did you see this coming? Why did you think this was the likely outcome?
Well, first and foremost, and I was basing it on news reports, but numerous news reports, not just one source, that said that the prosecution was really piecing together a compelling case. And that, and by turns, just looking at Trump's defense team, this is, I mean, yeah, I'm going to go on looks. They did not look competent. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
They really didn't. They looked like Marcia Clark. I mean, it was just like that whole thing during the, if you're, those of you, us of a certain age, who remember the OJ trial, she did not look or project any kind of level of competence. So that's one of the things too. The reports also said that the prosecution was able to make those leaps that you and I have talked about in this case, and tie the strings together in a compelling and understandable way. That's how you sell something. You know, I mean, that if you want to sell a guilty verdict or you want to sell a refrigerator, that's how you do it. Mm-hmm. You don't go into the refrigerator saying, well, you know, the refrigerator, you know, has a M35 engine that runs at 16 RPMs, which of course everybody knows is considerably better than the 15 RPM M14. You know, no one gives a shit about that. Doesn't make ice and will keep my food cold. They seemed to me and struck me as being very competent on the prosecutor side. What they were going after, they also had the benefit of that Trump did it. Okay.
Well, he did. I didn't think this was a question. I didn't think this was a case. I don't think either of us ever thought it was a case about the facts. I think it was always a question of legal theory, right? Because the legal theory was novel. It had literally no one's ever been prosecuted under this legal theory before. So that's what I was thinking the jury might get hung up on.
Right. And explain to our listeners the legal theory you're talking about.
So this is a New York case, not a federal case. Campaign finance law is a federal statute, but New York has a statute that makes it a felony to falsely alter your business records with the view of committing a crime. Alvin Bragg's predecessor, Cyrus Vance Jr., had declined to pursue Trump over this because he thought that it was very convoluted to say that, like, while committing a crime could include a federal crime. He thought, like, generally speaking, that would be about committing another state crime. However, the jury bought it. They basically bought that that the purpose of the payment was in large part, if not exclusively, in order to improve, or more accurately, to prevent his reputation from being harmed by the revelation of the Stormy Daniels affair. And therefore, he made the payment. Basically, it was a donation to his own campaign. If he had reported it as a campaign donation, then there would have been absolutely no problem. However, of course, then it wouldn't be secret because those are public records. So there's no point paying hush money via something that can be a public record. So it was kind of a catch-22 for Trump. I mean, it's kind of like saying, well, paying hush money is legal, but if you're a political candidate, you have to declare it. And it's kind of like, well, then it's not really legal, is it? Well, it's not really hush money.
No, it's not really hush money. No,
it's just money.
Yeah. No. So you know, you just explained it. And our listeners, of course, are brilliant, so they will understand it. But I mean, and they did have two attorneys on the jury, so they were going to, you know, presumably be able to understand it easier than a layperson. So, you know, that's what made me think that the prosecution had done their job, had done due diligence, had done the work, and the
judge's instructions were also a big deal.
Now, explain to me, because I listened to them and I didn't think they were outrageous or out of line. Obviously, the Trump team does feel that, because that's one of the bases they're going to appeal on. What do you think it was out of line?
I think it was, again, novel and unusual, and the kind of thing that goes beyond the parameters of what normally happens in a court of law in the state of New York. So basically, we just talked about the underlying crime theory, right? What lawyers call the predicate crime. And so there were three possible predicate crimes that could have been the motivation. So basically, remember, it's like the charge is you changed your records, you falsified your business records, and then there's the why you did it. That's the predicate crime. And in one of the theories was campaign finance reform, campaign finance laws to avoid those. And then there were two other theories. Well, in most cases, prosecution has to develop a unified theory that all 12 jurors sign off on. So for example, let's say, you kill me. It's not enough to just, if you're prosecuted, it's not enough to just say you killed Ted. You have to say Scott killed Ted with a knife on May 31st at his apartment in New York because he was mad at him. Why was he mad at him? He was mad at him because he compared him to Hunter Biden. And then so that's a theory of the case, right? So like in this case, effectively, they offered sort of three, perhaps not completely discrete theories of the case, but three partially discrete, like sort of theories of the case. And they basically told the jurors, you don't have to all 12 agree on any one of them. You can, one juror could say, I like A, 9 jurors could like B, and 2 jurors could like C, and that would add up to 12 and they'd be A-okay. That's weird. That's very weird.
Okay, that is strange. And of course they're going to appeal, which they should. And I mean, if I was Donald Trump, I definitely would.
Why shouldn't he? There's no reason not to.
Yeah. So going forward now, I mean, okay, I was online early this morning, a lot of chortling, a lot of hand wringing, a lot of people not friends of Trump being ecstatic. And frankly, the friends of Trump's were just carping. It's so weird. They were saying exactly what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like
the system is rigged. The judge is corrupt. Well,
it was rigged
and being corrupt, by the way. I mean, the judge donated to Biden's campaign. His daughter is a Democratic Party fundraiser. Now, this is kind of like when Andrea Mitchell reported on the Federal Reserve Bank at the same time that she was married to Alan Greenspan. You can say, oh, we don't really talk to each other, I mean, but I don't believe you, and it's kind of like, I mean, to me, that's a conflict of interest. To me, this judge should have recused, just like Samuel Alito should recuse in the J6 case because of the flag thing.
Well, and Thomas as well. Since his wife was one of the ones leading the, Stop the Steal movement, which was, of course, complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah, apparently being a conservative justice of the Supreme Court, you have to have a batshit crazy wife. That just goes with the territory.
That's required.
Wow. So, okay, now we have the press, particularly our compadres, our cartooning friends, are all pretty much gloating over and chortling over this, which frankly, my first reaction, and maybe that's just because I'm a wuss, and Ted will tell you there are times when I am, that I feel this is a sad moment in American history. We have convicted of a felony a former American president. That's not a good day. That's not a good thing. I don't care what you think about Donald Trump, and I don't think many good things about him, but he is a former president, and it breaks my heart that that office has been smeared. It was smeared before, but now I guess my question, the point I'm trying to get to, is what happens next. I mean, the office of president, you and I talked this morning, just for a few minutes before you went on the air on your radio show, and we asked, what does this mean? I mean, is America in decline? Is this the end of the American experiment? And it sure feels like it. Does this mean that we're going to be turning into Hungary or, Turkey or Russia? You can have a non-democratic country that still has elections and all that. So going forward, I don't think this is going to change anybody's mind. Can we agree on that, Ted? That this is
Yeah, no,
not
I think that's correct. I mean, I want to just address something you said. I mean,
okay.
to play devil's
Please.
advocate, you said about how what a dark day it is. I mean, if there's grounds for optimism, it is the fact that very truly no man is above the law. That even a former president of the United States
Yeah.
can be convicted of a felony if he's found guilty by 12 men and women and gender non-binary, whatever. So 12
Yeah. Okay.
12 angry gender fluid people.
12 angry thems.
but I mean, no, I mean, I think there's something to that. Well, look, let's take it linearly. Okay, so right now, nothing changes. The Biden administration, the Biden campaign is going to repeatedly keep saying convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. My prediction is people are just gonna, their eyes are gonna glaze over and they're gonna say, enough about that. Tell us what you're going to do for us. That's like really, truly, polls have suggested that up to 4% of voters in key states would not vote for Trump if he were convicted. But there's a big difference between saying what you would do if something were to happen and then what you actually do right after it happens. Yes. I think it's extremely unlikely, just like all the people who claimed they would leave the United States if Trump were elected, like Alec Baldwin, we're looking at you, and then they never do because Canada is cold, so fuck that. I think I don't think this changes anyone's mind. I think it, I got to tell you, I don't know how many people are like me, Scott, but I found myself thinking, just for entertainment value, it would be great to have the president of the United States be in prison. Oh, God. I mean, as a libertarian, you would like that limitation on the power of the state, maybe. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's, I do feel not sorry for him, but I do think there are people who are going to be like, look, that guy, he must really, truly, let me put it this way. If Trump wins, what does that message send? It sends a big fuck you to the establishment media and the powers that be.
Yes.
I don't know about you, Scott. A lot of people want to send a big fuck you to them. I do. I hate them.
Yeah. But what's the ramifications of that fuck you?
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So then, July 11th, just 3 days before the start of the GOP National Convention in Milwaukee, and they are going to sentence him. And Judge Merchant has been known to send first-time white-collar offenders to prison for things like this. So he could decide. I would have never thought that possible, but now I have to think it possible. I don't think it's likely. First offense, nonviolent crime, former president, but could they send him to jail at all? Could they decide to do, we're just going to like kneecap him like 6 months, just like take him out of the campaign?
I think even, it could be a month or, 10 days jail time, because my understanding, I know you've heard the same thing, is that nobody goes to jail for this offense.
Right.
Even when they're found guilty, nobody serves time for this. I mean, you could have probation, you could have,
they shouldn't.
Some form.
It's a waste of it's a waste of a good prison cell that can go to someone who really needs it.
Well, but as I just mentioned earlier, there are many of our friends, especially in the cartooning fraternity, who would think that was just great.
Yeah, they're all about it.
In fact, they already have them in the orange jumpsuit. They have, it's okay. So I find it hard to believe that this judge would sentence him to prison. If he does, that's a whole different can of worms. The Secret Service has worked this out, that should he go to jail. I mean, that's how weird things have gotten, Ted. The Secret Service now has a protocol for if the president or former president goes to jail.
Yeah.
Now let's move forward. Let's just assume for a moment that he doesn't go to jail. He gets probation. He goes through appeals. And all of this doesn't move the needle. The needle, as it appears today, is that he wins the election.
Yes.
So what does that message send?
With other cases still pending against him, I might add.
But the Supreme Court, I mean, if you listen to the question and answer period on presidential immunity, it sounds like they're all in on that.
True.
So you could have, I mean, you really could have a Turkey/Hungary type situation. He could pass, executive orders could be considerably more sweeping. If the House and Senate both go Republican, I mean, who the hell cares then? He could pass laws and give it the guise of legitimacy there. That's what the Nazis did when they rose to power. True. They felt that the veneer of law was very important to legitimize what they were doing. And then once they did it, they said, fuck, they jettisoned the law and said, we're in charge,
right?
By law. I think these are extremely precarious and dangerous times. Couple that with a couple of factors I want to throw in there, which is not part of the trial. But one is just looking slower and older every day. He is just, if we had a vibrant, mildly vibrant, marginally vibrant city president, she would win, in a New York minute. We don't have that right now.
No.
So, we're looking at an anemic
in half a mile,
anemic opposition. Coupled with that, have you seen the economic reports from this week? They're terrible. The economy is slowing down. Consumer confidence is going back down. It was going up very robustly for a while. It's going back down now. Purchasing is down from month to month over the last 3 months. GDP is only at 1.5%, if that. So the economy is going to go tits up. He's got weak opposition. I mean, Ted, in this trial, he was just found guilty. The man's been found liable for rape.
Yep.
And that doesn't move the needle. I mean, he wasn't kidding. He wasn't wrong when he said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue.
No, that's true. He was not wrong. So I think, so where do we go? I mean, look, I think I want to sort of tease this out, and then I'll let you go.
Okay.
I think that we've got to sort of look at two situations. First of all, three. Number one, how will his people react? There's already been reports that that Trump, his supporters, are calling for riots and violence as a result of this verdict, and that they're even talking about even revolution. So there's lots of stuff online. They're talking about like death threats against the judge. This is on right-wing media. So this is like, are we going to see terrorist acts by right-wing militias, Proud Boys type people, or is it just a lot of talk on social media? What do you think?
I think it's initial. First, okay, on that one, short answer, yeah, it's talk. It's the initial response, and ask the same person the same question 10 days from now, you're going to get a different answer. But yeah, they're pissed off this morning, and then 2 weeks from now they won't be as pissed off. And because Trump don't forget, Trump is now unchained. Trump can now have rallies all over the country every day.
Well, not necessarily after July 11th.
Well, that's true.
He may well be given a fine and probation. And the terms of probation often require that he cannot leave the city of New York.
Yeah, but he's not a resident of New York anymore. Would they make an exception for him that he can't leave Mar-a-Lago?
I mean, or they might say he can't leave New York anyway because he was convicted in New York.
But he obviously has a residence there, so
yeah, it's not like he would be out on the street. Yeah.
Okay, so that's my short answer to that question. That 2 weeks from now, the talk of revolution, that there's always that talk, but
Well, but I could see the occasional lone wolf do something bad from time to time.
Yeah.
And people who are really riled up. And then the next question is, will the, if he is sent to prison for a significant amount of time, will he drop out of the race?
No, absolutely not.
And okay, I lied. There's really going to be 4 questions.
Okay.
And I agree with that. Will he, if he is, can he be elected?
Yes.
And number 4, can he govern from behind bars?
There's nothing that says he can't. I mean, the founding fathers,
I mean, from
obviously,
a practical standpoint, like, he can't really meet like with, I mean, if he gets the phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning, like the Hillary Clinton phone call ad, does he have to wait in line behind the other inmates to use the payphone?
and have a pocket full of quarters. No, I mean, from a practical standpoint, it's preposterous. I mean, let's face it. But let's also face the fact that this guy doesn't have any.
What if Congress?
Well, really,
what if Congress? Like, what if like the New York State legislature just said, we can't have I mean, I know they're Democrats, but like, what if they just said, we can't have a president behind bars. We're just going to issue a commutation for this one guy this one time and let him go to the White House.
And the governor of New York, who's also Democrat, could do the same thing, I suspect. Could be clemency or something.
She's a centrist.
Okay, but she could. I mean, that would make you a hero, because it would say that you really did put principle above party. Mm-hmm. I don't see that happening in the United States anytime soon. So I would, you talk about, I don't see him relinquishing the reins, period. I mean, they could try, his cabinet could say, use the 25th Amendment to suspend him from president until he's out of jail.
Yeah, because he's not able to govern, right?
Yeah.
Like, so basically, effectively, the vice president would become the acting president.
Right, and that's going to be Howie Mandel or whoever he's thinking of right now. Okay, that's who you think it is. That you've thought that from the beginning, though. That's interesting. I think that going forward on this, it's going to become more and more of a circus, more and more of a fiasco. This guy loves chaos. This guy is Donald Trump is a chaos agent to his marrow. True. That's where he thrives. And frankly, look at it. It's worked. I mean, he got elected president of the United States at least once. That's pretty amazing.
No.
And as you like to point out,
he came close to being reelected.
Yeah. Yeah. So polls from the states like Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Trump is way ahead. And, obviously a week from now, it's going to be interesting because, there's always a lag time and how these things are played and how people react to them. It takes, but again, you're talking about a guy who was found liable for rape, and that's okay with his voters. That's just fine. That's just Don being Don. And I don't see this changing anything.
I don't think this changes anything either. I think there's going to be some voter shifts that basically cancel each other out. There's going to be that 1 or 2% of swing voters who are just not comfortable with voting for a guy who's just been convicted of these crimes. I want to point out that part of the factor here that makes it so hard for Americans and so confusing, even for us in the punditry class, to figure this out is that this trial was not televised. And I think it really goes to show how important it is for really all trials, but especially trials that are of historic and political import and significance to be televised, so that we have some sense of like, we can really, sort of work out in our own minds and argue about what happened. We kind of are never really going to know. Yeah, I think there's going to be some people will say, I'm not going to vote for this guy because he was convicted of a crime. I don't really know much about it. But then there's going to be just as many people who are going to say, this guy got railroaded. I wasn't so sure about him, but this pisses me off. Or if the system hates him this much, he must not be that bad. And those people
exactly.
cancel each other out.
Right. And there's more and more people who hate the system. So, so that he picks up those votes. So, yeah.
Yeah, the people inside the system, I think never, when you see them like on CNN or whatever, NPR, they never sort of understand just how much most of us hate the system.
Yeah, but and you look at places like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Indiana, where the system has really let people down.
Yep.
A system where they were assured that they were beloved and would be taken care of, and quite the opposite has been true over the last 25, 30 years.
Scott, who has not had an unfair traffic ticket or parking ticket? Who has not had unfair interaction with the courts? Who doesn't know someone who was convicted of something they didn't do? I mean, it's just, or who did something minor, but they were sentenced as if they had done something major. I mean, everyone knows someone like that.
Yeah, or a policy that was supported by, I'm thinking specifically of the Democrats, that hurt
Scott, you're freezing up.
But the Democrats, particularly the Clinton wing of the Democratic Party, supported this. And they are looking around their lives now. They're looking around Toledo and Dayton and Akron and going, fuck these people. They're not my friends. They want my vote. They think I owe it to them. And I'm looking over my life for the last 20 years and I don't.
Yeah. So
that's where the appeal is. And so that's why this court decision really will have very little effect. In fact, you and I have talked about this before, but the favorite, I think yours and mine favorite campaign button, and one that is highly sought after, is Eugene Debs, the perennial Socialist Party candidate in the early part of the 20th century. And he was convicted on the Sedition Act. And when he ran in was it the 16 election or the 20 election?
20.
I can't remember.
1920.
And it said vote for convict number, and it was his convict number. Was that it?
Yep.
Okay.
And by the way, his stay in prison did ultimately kill him. He got pneumonia, and he emerged a much weaker man.
I thought his alcoholism did that, or am I thinking of Gus Hall?
You're thinking of Gus Hall.
Okay.
I don't think. I mean, Eugene Debs was an Irish working man. So he was
do the math.
Throw back a few pints, but I don't think he was really an alcoholic.
Okay,
right, Scott, where can people find your stuff?
You can go to, just started a brand new gig this week. Yes, thank you, Smirkonish, the fellow you see on mornings on CNN, but he's also on Sirius XM, has a live show on YouTube, and he just hired me along with 3 other editorial cartoonists to do work for his newsletter. It's a free newsletter, has 150,000 plus subscribers.
Nice.
I mean, yeah, I'm really excited about it. I really am. And the cartoons are exclusive to his site and to his newsletter. So that's the only place you can go to. Smirkonish, SMERCONISH, and check it out. You can also go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis, or go to gocomics.com/Prickly City to see my political comic strip. You can go to Center Clip and hear the very short podcasts. They're 5 seconds, no longer than 5 minutes. Ted and I are both participating in that, along with some other friends of ours. It's a really cool app. You ought to get it or listen to it online. Ted, where can we see all things Ted Rall-ish?
Well, first and foremost, you should pick up a copy of my new book, 2024 Revisited, which is a reissue of my 24-year-old graphic novel where I predicted the future, which is now here. So now in color.
In color,
like the peacock. And you can also go to Rall.com. You can listen to the Final Countdown radio show on X Spaces and Rumble, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until 12 noon with me and Angie Wong. Also go to whowhatwhy.org and go to gocomics.com/Ted Rall, and you can go to Center Clip, which of course has both your stuff and my stuff on it. Little audio mini podcasts. Thanks everyone for listening to the DMZ America podcast, and we'll see you again next week. See you later.
Bye.
Bye, Carolinas.